everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hi, Angela. Excuse me. I'm so glad to be here with you all today. Thank you for joining. I am dual live streaming right now, so please, keep me posted on the quality of this live stream. And if y'all have joined me before, we know how that can go, living in Asia. So, hi Gary. Hi Nancy. I am in Bali. If you don't know, that's where I live. If you are new to me, please say hi. Share where you're from if you'd like. It's been a few days, it's been a little while, and I've missed you all, which is good. You know, I think I'm finding a balance also with my, I'm a spiritual life coach and seeing clients, so having a balance between that and being with you here, because everything I do, everything we all do, there's an energy expenditure. And so, I get to be mindful of that. And also, is anybody here into human design? If you are, and when I say I'm a projector, then what that means is, as far as the way I interface and use energy is different than other human design types, which means my design is only meant to be used. I'm not meant to work 8 hours a day full on. The projector works gets done in 8 hours what others get done in 3. Or no, gets done in 3. So basically, less is more. So, yeah. And I like to miss y'all a little, because then I value our time more, as I always do. But to say all that to say I've missed you, and also I'm working on balancing my energy, my attention. We all only have a certain number of, I think it's 86,000 seconds in a day, and that's really our currency. Money is a lesser currency than time. We're all given an equal amount of currency by, the number of seconds in the day and how we choose to use them and what we're paying attention to with that currency. So, being mindful of that resource is important. Hi, Rose and Allison. Welcome back, Diane. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here, is the point. We're going to be continuing our amazing book study series on Conversations with God, of which I have the hard copy book here. It was a gift from my friend in India, my Indian friend, when went to visit earlier this year. He's read like 500 books in a year. He's like a speed reader. So he loves books, and went to the bookstore and he's like, buy whatever book you want. And I don't know if I had it in my mind to buy this one if I found it, but it might have been in my mind to find this because we were already doing the book series here, and I thought it'd be great to have this hard copy. Ooh, butterflies out my window. Nice. I sometimes have my curtain open here, and also I need to get a selfie light because if I open the window and you can see the beautiful background, then I'm in the dark. So, yeah, always evolving, tweaking, expanding. Yes, there are many roosters here where I am. There's also cows. I've never seen the cows, but there must be right over the wall where I am. I smell them and hear them. Yeah, there's roosters. I live in a Balinese compound, meaning I live in Bali, if you don't know, and the Balinese, I'd say 95 or 98% of them live in these family compounds. You know, and so they all have chickens and roosters. I think it's very rare that they wouldn't. I mean, for the eggs, I don't know if they eat them. I think they just have them. So, yes. All right. If anybody is new, please say hello, as I said, and I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm Natalie, spiritual life coach and Reiki master teacher. And yeah, I've been a teacher here on Insight Timer for 3.5 years. I love being here with you all. I actually have a group in this in Insight Timer. Please join it. It's called Natalie's Healing Circle, and I just posted an announcement in there. I've got a number of meditations I've recorded. This is a while ago, quite a while ago, when I was deep in my Joe Dispenza journey. And I was teaching meditation in yoga centers. I've taught in Mexico, Vietnam, India, US, I think. Yeah, so I want to put that content here on my Insight Timer teacher profile. And also, it's a bit of a different voice style. So please send me a private message if you are willing and if it's interesting to you to hear the meditation and give feedback. And if not, I may just put a couple out and see what the response is. And actually, I do have one of them up on my profile. It's called Cosmic Journey Third Eye Activation. So if you listen to that one, that was recorded in the same time period in the same style. So actually that would be the way to do that. So thank you, Angela. I actually thought of you because I know with my truth excavation, you gave some great feedback on that one. So I appreciate that. Yeah, so let's see. I kind of feel like drawing a card because I love to, and I know y'all love it. And, this weekend for Saturday Night Live, please join for that. Please follow me here on Insight Timer so you get notified when I go live and when I publish new tracks. Yeah, I totally lost my train of thought. Give a donation here in the app if it's valuable and helpful for you, my content or Insight Timer in general. And also follow me. I am double live streaming, as I said, in YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. You can follow me there as well. So I appreciate that. And I just passed 300 subscribers in my channel. So we all start somewhere, as I always talk about, starting from 0 here in my teacher profile, and here we are. So, yeah, I kind of feel like drawing from Osho Zen Tarot. I love the art on these cards, and every deck has its own energy, and yeah, I mean, the art and the messages vary, of course. So I like them for different reasons, and I really just go with my feeling, my intuition. Woo! And there it popped out. Thank you, Angela, for that subscription. So this is your card. Beautiful energies here, integration. How many of you have felt like you've been through a shit show lately? And even remember, for those who were here in my last Saturday Night Live last weekend, I think it was the last one where it was like the Tower card and something really being shook up. So as that's happened and happening, and I'm feeling it too, really. It's like this is a card to say things are starting to level out from that energy. And this is a period of integration for you. So just ride the waves, ride the storm, ride the flow, whatever that flow looks like. And just use your higher mind and your higher awareness here to be the observer of this journey and this process. The face on this card, it's actually interesting. Half of it's red, half of it's blue, and then in the top there and in the middle, it's sort of like clear, like white. Actually, it's half of the body. I'm seeing that now. And so, we have this, it looks like air, earth, fire, water, the rainbow, the yin and yang, the snake eating its own tail, completion, circle. And then we have the stars in the galaxy underneath that. We have the sun, we have the moon. We have these are two birds, very different energies of birds, an eagle and a swan. I mean, those are so different. So, and even you can see the red and the blue here are like flipped there as this, and then it turns into the rainbow and I would call this the 8th chakra, the chakra that's above the head. So, yeah, we are all of this. So I feel like this is saying, like, remind yourself you're not just a 3-dimensional human body, that you are bigger than that. This is an integration of the energies of the soul, the spirit, coming together, in this vehicle, with your awareness being the anchor. And so the invitation for you is to be like this. This space is very peaceful. And just witness. Your peace, your witnessing will help all of this to settle and integrate. So, actually, I'm going to read, and there's an app for this deck if you like it. The Osho Zen Tarot app. You do have to pay for it once. It's $8, or it was when I bought it. But yeah, it's got the descriptions and things. So I'm going to read this description. The image of integration is the unio mystica, the fusion of opposites. This is a time of communication between the previously experienced dualities of life. Rather than night opposing day, dark suppressing light, they work together to create a unified whole, turning endlessly one into the other, each containing in its deepest core the seed of the opposite. The eagle and the swan are both beings of flight and majesty. The eagle is the embodiment of power and aloneness. The swan is the embodiment of space and purity, gently floating and diving upon and within the element of the emotions, entirely content and complete within her perfection and beauty. We are the union of eagle and swan, male and female, fire and water, life and death. The card of integration is the symbol of self-creation, new life, and mystical union, otherwise known as alchemy. So breathing that in. So we're going to dive into continuing our book study now. Is there anybody here who does not know this book, Conversations with God? Going once, going twice. And it's not about, any sort of calling somebody else out about it, or it's just the reason why I ask is I will catch you up very briefly if you're brand new to it. And if not, then we'll just dive right in. So, and if you are new as well, or if you know the book but you're just joining, just trust you're hearing whatever excerpt you need to hear today, or if you're seeing the live or the replay, just trust. And also notice, I always give a disclaimer with this book because it will hit your stuff, that you notice when it does that and that you have an open mind to what it's saying. And also, just be with empty mind, allowing the information in. And if it does hit you, you're triggered, whatever you want to call it, the invitation is to, isn't this interesting? Not to have a judgment about the material, but to notice the reaction inside and to, okay, isn't this interesting? Can I relax and release? Can I be with the energy that's here and present in the body in this moment to allow whatever it is to transmute, come up, transform, instead of getting wrapped up in what the trigger was. So advanced level stuff there. So if you are following along, and if you do want the free audiobook version of this book, send me a private message. That is the resource I have to send if you want to. And if you've been here for a long time with these, it's the one we listened to before I started reading. It's great. So, if you are reading along, page 114. How can I get to my God space when I've lost my job, the rent needs paying, the kids need a dentist, and being in my lofty philosophical space seems the least likely way to solve any of this? So this is already, the whole book hits deep. And if you were here last time, it was hitting really deep. So it's like we're just diving right back into this depth of how many of you have asked that question yourself. How are all these spiritual concepts and whatever about God, source, how's that going to help me pay my rent tomorrow? It's a very common human question. So God will answer now. Do not forsake me when you need me most. Now is the hour of your greatest testing. Now is the time of your greatest chance. It is the chance to prove everything that's been written here. When I say don't forsake me, I sound like that needy, neurotic God we talked about, but I'm not. You can forsake me all you want, I don't care, and it won't change a thing between us. I merely say this in answer to your questions. It is when the going gets tough that you so often forget who you are and the tools I've given you for creating the life that you would choose. Now is the time to go to your God space more than ever. First, it will bring you great peace of mind, and from a peaceful mind do great ideas flow. Ideas which could be solutions to the bigger problems you imagine yourself to have. Second, it is in your God space that you self-realize, and that is the purpose, the only purpose of your soul. So I'm going to pause here and notice, like, okay, first it's saying you need the God space more than ever, meaning like being in faith, being in connection, trusting that even when the outside world is the way it is and you have an issue with it or a problem, that when you go to that God space, you clear your mind and be at peace so that ideas can actually flow that could help you. And second, it is in this God space that you self-realize, and that's your only purpose of your soul. So this is answering the deepest questions of who we are and why we're here, as it does continually through this book. When you are in your God space, you know and understand that all you are now experiencing is temporary. I tell you that heaven and earth shall pass away, but you shall not. This everlasting perspective helps you to see things in their proper light. You can define these present conditions and circumstances as what they truly are, temporary and temporal. You may use them as tools, for that is what they are, temporary, temporal tools in the creation of present experience. Just who do you think you are? In relationship to the experience called lose a job, who do you think you are? And perhaps more to the point, who do you think I am? Do you imagine this is too big a problem for me to solve? Is getting out of this jam too big a miracle for me to handle? I understand that you may think it's too big for you to handle even with all the tools I've given you, but do you really think it's too big for me? I know intellectually, now this is Neale, the author, I know intellectually that no job is too big for God, but emotionally, I guess I can't be sure. Not whether you can handle it, but whether you will. I see, so it's a matter of faith. Yes, you don't question my ability, you merely doubt my desire, says God. And that's a powerful distinction. How many of you can relate to that of like, praying for help and then not really trusting a solution's going to come? And knowing, like, intellectually that sure, an all-knowing, all-powerful creator could create a miracle or answer my prayer, but will it, does it want to? So God's saying, you don't question my ability, you merely doubt my desire. So Neale, the author, says, you see, I still live with this theology that says there may be a lesson in here somewhere for me. I'm still not sure I'm supposed to have a solution. Maybe I'm supposed to have the problem. Maybe this is one of those tests my theology keeps telling me about. So I worry that this problem may not be solved, that this is one of those you're going to let me hang here with. God says, perhaps this is a good time to go over once more how it is that I interact with you, because you think it is a question of my desire, and I'm telling you it's a question of yours. I want for you what you want for you. Nothing more, nothing less. I don't sit here and make a judgment, request by request, whether something should be granted you. My law is the law of cause and effect, not the law of will see. There is nothing you can't have if you choose it. Even before you ask, I will have given it to you. Do you believe this? No, I'm sorry. I've seen too many prayers go unanswered. Don't be sorry. Just always stay with the truth of your experience. I understand that, I honor that, and that's okay with me, says God. Good, because I don't believe that whatever I ask, I get. My life has not been a testimony to that. In fact, I rarely get what I ask for. When I do, I consider myself damn lucky. That's an interesting choice of words. You have an option, it seems. In your life, you can either be damned lucky or you can be blessing lucky. I'd rather you be blessing lucky, but of course, I'll never interfere with your decisions. I tell you this, you always get what you create, and you are always creating. I do not make a judgment about the creations that you conjure. I simply empower you to conjure more and more and more. If you don't like what you've just created, choose again. My job as God is to always give you that opportunity. Now you are telling me that you haven't always gotten what you've wanted, yet I'm here to tell you that you've always gotten what you called forth. Your life is always a result of your thoughts about it, including your obviously creative thought that you seldom get what you choose. Now, in this present instance, you see yourself as the victim of the situation in the losing of your job. Yet the truth is that you no longer chose that job. You stopped getting up in the morning in anticipation and began getting up with dread. You stopped feeling happy about your work and began feeling resentment. You even began fantasizing doing something else. You think these things mean nothing? You misunderstand your power. I tell you this, your life proceeds out of your intentions for it. So what's your intention now? Do you intend to prove your theory that life seldom brings you what you choose? Or do you intend to demonstrate who you really are and who I am? I feel chagrined, chastised, embarrassed. Does that serve you? Why not simply acknowledge the truth when you hear it and move toward it? There's no need to recriminate against yourself. Simply notice what you've been choosing and choose again. But why am I so ready to always choose the negative and then spank myself for it? What can you expect? You were told from your earliest days that you're bad. You accept that you were born in sin. Feeling guilty is a learned response. You've been told to feel guilty about yourself for things you did before you could even do anything. You've been taught to feel shame for being born less than perfect. This alleged state of imperfection in which you are said to have come into this world is what your religionists have the gall to call original sin. And it is original sin, but not yours. It is the first sin to be perpetuated upon you by a world which knows nothing of God, if it thinks that God would or could create anything imperfect. Some of your religions have built up whole theologies around this misconception, and that is what it is, literally, a misconception. For anything I conceive, all that to which I give life is perfect, a perfect reflection of perfection itself, made in the image and likeness of me. Yet, in order to justify the idea of a punitive God, your religions needed to create something for me to be angry about, so that even those people who lead exemplary lives somehow need to be saved. If they don't need to be saved from themselves, then they need to be saved from their own built-in imperfection. So these religions say you'd better do something about all of this and fast, or you'll go straight to hell. This, in the end, may do nothing to mollify a weird, vindictive, angry God, but it does give life to weird, vindictive, angry religions. Thus do religions perpetuate themselves. Thus does power remain concentrated in the hands of the few. rather than experienced through the hands of the many. Of course, you choose constantly the lesser thought, the smaller idea, the tiniest conception of yourself and your power, to say nothing of me and mine. You've been taught to. My God, how can I undo the teaching? A good question, and addressed to just the right person. You can undo the teaching by reading and rereading this book. Over and over again, read it until you understand every passage, until you're familiar with every word. When you can quote its passages to others, when you can bring its phrases to mind in the midst of the darkest hour, then you will have undone the teaching. Yet there's still so much I want to ask you, still so much I want to know. Indeed, you began with a very long list of questions. Shall we get back at it? Whew. Powerful transmission. Hi, Astrid. Hi, Shah. Totally, and that's exactly what it's saying. When religions can keep people in fear, then they have power. When the power is within us, and it's not our faults, it's conditioning. So how do you undo all of this conditioning? It says reading and rereading this book and these teachings. And I would also say, if this material resonates, 100% yes. And also, if there's other teachings that resonate more, that also feel like the truth with a capital T, that are not involving shame and guilt and judgment, but are about, uplifting yourself, loving yourself, helping you to know your true power, releasing self-judgment, presence, awareness, all of those things that, if there's other texts that resonate, do what it says with those. Rereading over and over, understanding every passage, familiar with every word, being able to quote it. And that's part of why I do this book, because I do feel like it is the truth with a capital T. And because I'm so passionate about it, it's just this passion that wells up from inside, because I believe it's the truth for me, and I want to share it. And, when you teach, you learn twice. So, yeah. Hi, Kieran. Hi, Jessica. Whew. So this is the end of that chapter 7. Questions, comments. If you're jumping in now, joining in, say hello. If you're new, if you don't know what we're doing here and don't know this book, Conversations with God, please say so. And also don't worry if you've never come to the live before. We're in the middle of the book. It doesn't matter. Just trust that it's here for you now. Don't forget to follow me here. Also YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I'm double live streaming. The replay will be up. As soon as this finishes, it will automatically go into the live video section in my channel. So, yeah. So chapter 8, I feel like this next chapter is my favorite because it's about relationships. Yes, romantic, and also, of course, all relationships. And it talks a lot about romantic relationships as well, which ultimately it's about relationship with the self. So I've been looking forward to diving in here, because for me personally, a lot of my themes of my life have been centered around relationships, struggles, troubles, challenges, opportunities, areas for growth and expansion. So, anyone else has struggled with relationships before? Or am I the only one? No, I know I'm not. Hi, Wendy. Hi, Karen. Yeah. Who here has not struggled with relationships? Maybe that's a better question. Would love to. Yeah, and if you haven't, then you should be a teacher on Insight Timer and tell us how you did it. Yeah, me too. Well, actually, I know the answer from my own learnings, which is if somebody hasn't struggled with relationship, they've come in on a pretty high level of having a loving relationship with themselves or being parented in that way. So, yeah. All right, so are y'all ready to dig in? Okay. So Neale opens with the questions. When will I learn enough about relationships to be able to have them go smoothly? Is there a way to be happy in relationships? Must they be constantly challenging? Can anyone relate to his frustration again besides me? Okay. Yeah. God says, you have nothing to learn about relationships. You have nothing to learn about relationships. You have only to demonstrate what you already know. Truth bomb number one of many in this chapter. How do y'all feel about that statement? It's not about learning something, it's about demonstrating what you already know. How many of you can relate to being in a moment with any sort of relationship at all and like acting one way and sitting there watching yourself react and knowing that it's not what your higher self would do or the best choice, and yet you do it anyway, besides me? You know, the difference here with us is we have an awareness to where we can see it happening in real time. Do y'all remember a time in your life where that observer or witness mindset was not there, where you were just your reaction? Yeah, I want to slow down here for a minute. This is a really powerful and interesting thing because, you know, everyone who's hearing this now, who's drawn to this material, even if you've happened upon it, you know, you're at a level to receive it or to be open to start receiving it. And so, you know, if I think back, I'd say like 20, 25 years ago and before, I was 100% or 90% or whatever, like mostly identified with my stream of consciousness, my stream of thinking. My consciousness was identified with that stream of thought. And so at that time, I would have just been my reaction. And maybe afterwards I would regret, or maybe during I might have, you know, judgment. But this is the journey of awakening, is this like, it's like the journey is this space, this gap that opens up when you start meditating, when you start on this path of, you know, thoughts reactions, instead of just 100% being that, then there's space to see it. And then the next step is then choosing differently in that moment, which is what this says. You have nothing to learn about relationships. You have only to demonstrate what you already know. So in the moment, when you erupt or whatever, or storm off, first there'll be the awareness, and you'll watch that you're doing it, And Michael Singer talks about this. You get to some point in the journey, and I imagine he's way beyond me. Well, I know that, but, he says you can't turn this thing off. He says you will get to a point, if we look at non-reactivity, that you'll notice that part that wants to, and you are the witness, and you're resting in the seat of self. That seat is established so that you do not react, and you respond appropriately, like what you already know, how you already know to respond. You do that, and you just relax and release constantly to the energies that the situation might bring up. And he's like, it feels like you have an eternity from the stimulus to the response, whatever the situation is. He says it feels like you have just this eternal space to be and witness and notice. And then he says at some point, like, you can't turn it off. So, wow. I'm so happy to hear that, Rose. It's so exciting. Singer is my other passion. So, that first sentence already holds so much juice. There is a way to be happy in relationships, and that is to use relationships for their intended purpose, not the purpose you've designed. To use them for their intended purpose, not the purpose you've designed. Hey, Lisa Nanda. Relationships are constantly challenging, constantly calling you to create, express, and experience higher and higher aspects of yourself, grander and grander visions of yourself, ever more magnificent versions of yourself. Nowhere can you do this more immediately, impactfully, and immaculately than in relationships. In fact, without relationships, you cannot do it at all. I'm just like so wanting to slow down in this chapter, because like every sentence is juicy as AF, juicy as fuck. How many of you can relate to, besides me, like being in a relationship, then being single again? Like this happened, whatever. I really experienced this a few years ago. I was in this longer term relationship. It ended. I was like consciously single for a long while. And then I met somebody and started dating them, and we got into a long-term relationship. What I noticed was, it was like, and I was frustrated. I was like, why the fuck is this happening? I thought my period of being single, and I was working deeply on myself, and I wasn't dating, and I wasn't looking, and I was just working on my issues. Then I get into a new relationship. It was like all of the issues that I thought I'd been working on were waiting, just waiting in a holding pattern for for them to be activated by me getting into this relationship. Yeah, exactly, Angela. And the thing is, yes, we can do work here within ourselves, single, whatever, and also in the context of especially romantic relationship. There's only things you can work on in romantic relationship while you are in it. It activates things that are not possible to activate outside of it. So that's what this paragraph's saying, and I will reread that, Diane. So it says relationships are constantly changing, evolving, etc. Calling you basically into an ever more magnificent version of yourself. Nowhere can you do this more immediately, impactfully, and immaculately than in relationships. In fact, without relationships, you cannot do it at all. So that's why I said that. Yeah. Hi, Laura. And a couple of you saying avoiding relationship. I'm in a place where it's like I say I want one, but then I feel like I have this divided energy that is, I think I want the fun part, the new, when it's new and fun in the honeymoon period, but I don't know how much I want the real part, which is the hard part, which is after that all fades and people, then you start seeing flaws and then all the stuff is there to work on. I've really been like, feeling into that. So, yeah, the roosters are always going, Lisa. It's almost 11 a.m., so it's not about the time of day. Okay, we'll do a bit more here. It is only through your relationship with other people, places, and events that you can even exist as a knowable quantity, as an identifiable something in the universe. Another bomb. It talked about this earlier in the book, and I reference this often, and it's going to say it in a minute, so I'll let the book say it, but I want to reread that. It's only through your relationship with other people, places, and events that you can even exist as a knowable quantity, as an identifiable something. Remember, absent everything else, you are not. So this is why, like, studying this book really helps with things like this. Ooh, awesome, Diane. Diane got it. It clicked. Absent everything else, you are not. Who all remembers in the book when it talks about the nature, or maybe me saying it because I've said it many times, because it's the crux of everything, of why we're here, that basically in the beginning there was only one thing, one, God is. God wanted to experience itself, but it could not because it is. It was all there is. So it chose to separate itself so that what it separated into then could relate to itself from something outside of itself. And so we are that. And that's what the self-realization, actualization journey is. So when it's saying, absent everything else, you are not, that's what it means. Hi, Tony. You only are what you are relative to another thing that is not. You only are what you are relative to another thing that is not. In easier terms, it's like you can't have black without white, light without dark, high without low. That's why, and it's talking about relativity. Relationship is relativity. Yes, Rose, it does. So that's, I think, in book 2 or 3. It's a more advanced concept. And maybe it was in here too. It might have been recently. It gave the analogy that the color white is the sum of every color, including black. In the same way, love is all of the emotions, including fear. So if God is love, then that includes that as well. Because God is all that there is. But this is, again, earlier in the book. And if you're having a hard time with this, I mean, I still do. I'm not an expert. But I do have a grasp because I have studied it and thought about it quite a bit. So don't worry, just let it sink in. Be in don't know mind. That is how it is in the world of the relative, as opposed to the world of the absolute, where I reside. So we have the absolute, which is what I'm saying, God is, and that's all there is, versus the world of the relative, which is two things relating, and you must have the is and then the is not. In order for there to be an is, there needs to be an is not. So I'm going to read this paragraph again. So hang in there. So it earlier was saying, nowhere can you experience yourself in bigger ways than in relationships. In fact, without relationships, you cannot do it at all. It is only through your relationship with other people, places, and events that you can even exist as a knowable quantity, as an identifiable something in the universe. Remember, absent everything else, you are not. You only are what you are relative to another thing that is not. That is how it is in the world of the relative, as opposed to the world of the absolute where I reside. So are you all grasping that? Or is anybody not that has a question or something? Hi, Marielle. Going once, going twice. So I'm going to read the next paragraph and then we'll wrap up. Nicole! Ooh. I know it's you. Because I know you love my voice. Thanks for saying hi. So, once you clearly understand this, once you deeply grasp it, then you intuitively bless each and every experience, all human encounter, and especially personal human relationships, for you see them as constructive in the highest sense. You see that they can be used and must be used and are being used, whether you want them to be or not, to construct who you really are. Okay, I'm going to keep going because it's continuing. That construction can be a magnificent creation of your own conscious design or a strictly happenstance configuration. You can choose to be a person who has resulted simply from what has happened or from what you've chosen to be and do about what has happened. It is in the latter form that creation of self becomes conscious. It is in the second experience that self becomes realized. Bless, therefore, every relationship and hold each as special and formative of who you are and now choose to be. I have chills. So this is speaking to the essence of like victim mindset versus growth mindset. And also choosing to be creating by design or by default. We're always creating. It said that already today. Are you going to be a conscious creator? Or are you going to be a happenstance configuration? You can choose to be a person who has resulted simply from what has happened. So that's totally disempowering, right? Because of XYZ, that's why I'm this way. And then it ends there. I mean, I have that mindset still in here. And it pops up. And also there's other things where it's not there, and that's the evolution. You can choose to be a person who has resulted simply from what has happened, or from what you've chosen to be and do about what has happened. So, I talk about Oprah's example a lot because it's such an inspirational one. It comes to mind often, where she came from. Total poverty, raped by her uncle and pregnant at 14 or something, whatever. Like, she had nothing. She could have been a result that could have dictated her entire life, and she could have just stayed where she was as a happenstance configuration. But whatever, she chose, and probably chose over and over many times, making small baby step choices that then led to other ones and bigger ones. But she has chosen to, who she's chosen to be and do about what happened. And every inspirational person, Tony Robbins, he has his story, about he didn't have a good upbringing, and his mother, I think, was an alcoholic, and, he was very, very poor. And at 18, he got inspired by Jim Rohn, I think, and, went from there. Even Nelson Mandela, imprisoned, could have chosen to, just be, I'm a victim to being imprisoned, but he didn't allow that to dictate his future. He chose to become more based on that situation. And we all can think of examples of famous people or people that we know, and even me, like with my alcohol and drug addiction. I could have just chosen to be that and let it stop there and be in addiction and victim my whole life. And that would have been tragic. And of course, I'm not perfect. But I have used that, it's a part of who I am. And it was the hardest thing at that time in my life I'd ever done. I had to change every single thing. I had to become a different person. At 22 years old, I made that choice. Thank you. So, yeah, I love this chapter. I feel like maybe when we finish this book, I might just do like a perpetual rereading of this chapter. Honestly too, I pulled out the biggest gems, and I think I've shared this from that chapter, and they're reminders in my phone that go off every hour to remind myself about relationships. And everything's relationship. If you want the list of those quotes, and if you want to do that or just read them every day or whatever you want to do, send me a private message. I can share those with you along with the audio link to the audiobook version of this book. As we close, don't forget to follow me here on Insight Timer. Give a donation if you would like. Appreciate the donations I have received and do receive. Thank you. Please listen to my meditations. I've got some great premium tracks, more coming, and some free ones. Yeah. Follow me on social, YouTube, etc. If you want to dive deeper into your own relationship with self and how you interface in relationship, if you feel stuck or hopeless and these teachings are resonating and you want to have support and accountability around doing this deepest level work, send me a message. We can talk about the possibility of working together. If you're ready to create who you want to be. That's what, and we'll learn this in this chapter as we continue reading. The whole purpose of all of this is to realize and actualize and choose and create who you want to be in relation to whatever the situation is. I got bitten by a dog on my face about 9 years ago to the day here in Bali. And it was one of the worst, whatever that means, things that happened to me. And, really that journey's led me here in its own ways. But I could have chosen to be a result of that situation and stayed there. And I did that for a bit. And it's also been, a back and forth journey. But ultimately, I have used that to create who I want to become, as a result of that and that story and all of the lessons. I was hospitalized 5 times in 8 weeks. I had a nervous breakdown. I was afraid of dogs. I'd never been afraid of them before. I was thinking about this the other day because I walk every day here in Bali and there's dogs around and, most of them are okay, but there's some that are iffy. And I'm like, wow, the Natalie X number of years ago would have a huge problem with this right now. And, I don't. I chose to, make different choices. So, all right. I will see you all for Saturday Night Live this weekend. Thank you all for joining. This has been great, as always. Thank you. You're welcome. Love you all. Yeah. I'm so glad we have the technology, the resources, the books, everything that we have to connect and learn and expand. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for saying hi. Love you, miss you, and see you all very soon. Namaste.